The evening was quiet, with the last light of the sun sinking behind the hills. Daniel sat on the porch of his small rented house, his hands resting on his knees, staring at the horizon as if searching for answers that never came. He was 31, yet he felt twice that age. Life had not been kind to him. His dreams once roared inside him like fire, but over the years, failure and heartbreak had poured water over that flame until only faint smoke remained. He remembered the boy he once was, full of wonder, convinced he would make something extraordinary out of his life. In high school, he had dreamed of becoming an architect. He used to sketch buildings late at night, imagining cities rising out of his drawings. But then college came, and with it, the first heavy blow. His father passed away suddenly from a heart attack, and Daniel had to drop out to support his mother and younger sister. That was the first time he felt the weight of life pressing him down, telling him that dreams were luxuries only the lucky ones could afford. Years passed, and he found himself working small jobs, bartender, cashier, delivery driver, jobs that paid just enough to survive but not enough to save. He often told himself that it was temporary, that one day he would find his way back. But as time went on, temporary turned into permanent, and the fire inside him turned into silent embers. To make matters worse, love had also betrayed him. Emily, the girl he thought he would marry, left him when things became too hard. She said she needed stability, someone who had a plan. Her departure carved a hollow in Daniel's heart that nothing seemed to fill. Nights grew lonelier, and mornings became heavier. He was tired of starting over, tired of being disappointed, tired of watching his life slip away like sand between his fingers. And yet, somewhere deep within, a voice whispered that it wasn't over, that there was still time, that maybe, just maybe, one clear goal could change everything. One night, after another long shift at the diner where he worked, Daniel sat by his window, staring out at the empty street. His reflection on the glass looked weary, but his eyes caught something, a small spark. He whispered to himself, almost afraid of the sound of his own hope, what if I just choose one thing? One goal, one path, and refuse to let go. It was a simple thought, but it struck him with the weight of a revelation. He realized that his biggest struggle was not that he had failed, but that he had scattered his life in too many directions, never holding on long enough to see what persistence could do. That night, he made a quiet promise to himself. He would return to architecture. Not tomorrow, not someday, but now. Even if it meant starting from scratch, even if it took years, even if no one believed in him. He would believe. The days that followed were not miraculous. Nothing changed overnight. He still worked at the diner, still struggled to pay bills, still fought loneliness. But now, there was a thread tying his days together. Each night after work, no matter how tired, he sat with his old sketchbooks, sharpening pencils, drawing lines, practicing perspectives. His hand was rusty, his lines shaky at first, but he kept going. Slowly, the sketches began to breathe again. He enrolled in night classes at the community college, scraping together the tuition by cutting down on everything. No more eating out, no unnecessary expenses, just hard discipline. People around him didn't understand. Some even laughed. "You're too old for this," a coworker said. "You missed your chance." But Daniel kept silent, focusing on the small victories, passing an exam, finishing a project, hearing a professor say, "You've got talent." Loneliness still visited him, sometimes with brutal force. There were nights he cried quietly, questioning if it was worth it. He missed companionship, missed having someone to share his struggles with. But in those moments, he learned to sit with his pain, to let it teach him instead of destroy him. He realized that loneliness could also be a teacher, shaping him into someone stronger, more patient, more aware of life's fragile beauty. There was one particular night when he almost gave up. He had failed an important project in class, the professor telling him it lacked focus. He went home crushed, throwing his sketches across the room. Sitting in the mess, he buried his face in his hands and whispered, "Maybe they're right. Maybe I'm just fooling myself." But then, almost like an answer, his eyes fell on a single sketch he had made years ago, when his father was still alive. It was of a small house surrounded by trees, simple yet full of warmth. He remembered how his father had looked at it and said, "You see the world differently, Daniel. Don't let that gift die." Tears blurred his vision, but that memory pulled him back from the edge. He picked up his pencil again, whispering, "For you, Dad. I'll keep going." Years rolled on. Progress was slow, sometimes painfully so. But progress it was. Daniel graduated from his program, older than most of his classmates, but with a deeper fire in his heart. He landed an internship at a small architecture firm. The pay was modest, the hours long, but he treated every task, every blueprint, every model, as if it were a stepping stone to something greater. And then came the day that changed everything. The firm was tasked with designing a community center for a struggling neighborhood. It wasn't a grand skyscraper or a luxurious mansion, it was something simple but meaningful. Daniel poured himself into the project, remembering the warmth of that house he had sketched long ago. He designed spaces that felt alive, open, welcoming. Spaces where children could laugh, where families could gather, where lonely hearts could feel less alone. When the project was presented, the clients chose his design. For the first time, Daniel felt the weight of years of struggle lifting. He stood in the finished building months later, hearing the voices of children echoing in the halls, watching families come together in the space he had created. And in that moment, he realized, this was why he had endured. This was why he had chosen one goal, one path. Life didn't become perfect after that. He still had challenges, still faced moments of doubt. But now he carried within him a certainty, that clarity and persistence could turn pain into purpose, that even the most broken chapters could lead to beautiful endings if one refused to let go. He often returned to the porch of his little house, watching the horizon. But now, his gaze wasn't empty. It was full of quiet faith. He knew the road ahead was long, but he also knew he wasn't lost anymore. He had found his path, and with it, a piece of peace he had been searching for all his life. And so, Daniel's story wasn't about sudden miracles or easy victories. It was about patience, about holding on when the world told him to let go, about choosing one goal, one path, and walking it with all his heart. His story was a reminder that even in the darkest nights, the smallest spark of focus could light the way forward. Because in the end, life isn't about how fast we get there. It's about not giving up on the journey. And Daniel, through heartbreak, loneliness, and failure, found that staying true to one path turned his brokenness into something whole, something lasting, something beautiful.